Throughout the history of RE, a certain amount of characters haven't gotten enough screen time in the franchise, which in my opinion is a little bit of a shame because some of these characters are really interesting, while others actually hold a little bit more importance in the story. Today I'll be talking about 7 characters that deserves a spotlight once again in the franchise. Starting with Billy Cohen, his first and last appearance was in Resident Evil 0. And we got sort of a happy ending for him in a sense that he didn't obviously get taken in. Well, that's all we know because again, he hasn't been told at all in the story after that. So his whereabouts is pretty unknown at this point. Hopefully he's doing alright and he's just actually still, I guess, well, what I should be saying, I hope he's able to turn over his life and probably start new. The fact that we know little information, not even from like any books or comic books or any information like that, is pretty jarring, and I hope that someday they'll fix that. There's not really much you can do with Billy as his story pretty much wrapped up. He has no real need to be involved in any of the other stories that we have right now, so it makes sense, and that's for Billy not to be here. Moving on to number 6 is Helen Harper, a character I really got attached to like really easily through Resident Evil 6, which is her only appearance similar to Billy in a sense how it's just first and last game. Zero information afterwards, we know nothing, other than she's still actually working with Condor 1. I'm actually forgot. I think I'll put it on screen what she's actually working as, but still, we don't know anything about her, and it's pretty random how that she's still working. We haven't heard zero information. Yet we heard a lot about Leon Escalante. Hopefully she's able to make her appearance somewhat in the games, maybe in RE9, who knows. It would be nice for that to be fleshed out. Obviously her story is actually fleshed out similar to Billy Cohen's, but it would be nice as she's still working with obviously, what's her name? Hunnigan. So maybe we'll get a chance in RE9, who knows what the story might be, but hopefully we get some sort of crack of information out of the story. Number 5 is Jake Wesker, or Jake Muller, I think. Either way, this character here is one of the characters on this list that actually deserves to be in a new game because of his importance and his connection to obviously Wesker. Also, I would have loved if for him to have another appearance with Chris Redfield in a game, which makes sense because obviously Chris's history with Wesker has been very interesting throughout the story, and it would be nice if you could probably watch over Jake Wesker or Jake Muller. It's kind of strange that him and Sherry haven't actually gotten any real screen time, and I'm actually going to get down to Sherry afterwards. The most that we've known is that obviously he's kind of turned over and started probably helping out, I guess, poorer countries or people in real bad need, as we saw that slight hidden ending in RE6. However, I do have a theory on why Jake, as well as Sherry, are not in any of the games. I feel like these characters specifically are saved for something a little bit more greater in a sense, and that after the passing, probably eventually, of the beloved characters like Chris, Leon, Ada, and Jill, that we'll probably see new characters step up to the plate, and these two characters I feel like might be the characters that will take over for at least the action side of RE. Again, Resident Evil tends to go on this weird bump of where it goes survival horror, and action, and repeat. So who knows where these characters will be placed, but most likely that's their positioning is for the action related RE games, the grand big, BOW monster that can destroy and you have to do backflips, kicks and all that stuff. While we have someone new completely new, fresh out of the box, similar to the vein of Ethan Winters and Rose, who will take on the survival horror. I'm not saying that these characters can't step up to the plate and do survival horror. It would just be a little bit different because considering the powers that Jake has, from his father at least. Moving on to Sherry, who's actually made her first appearance in RE2, and pretty much after that being saved by Leon and Claire, there was like zero information for a long period of time, until magically she appeared all grown up in Resident Evil 6, who actually, I thought she's probably going to be boring. No, actually, she was quite interesting in the way how she helped Jake become the person he is now. And after that, we've heard nothing. All we know is that she's still probably working for the secret government, just not for Simmons, obviously, because we all know what happens to Simmons. If you don't, well, 3, 2, 1, brace yourself for a spoiler. As I mentioned before, we know that she is still working for the secret government, and who knows, by the obviously, I guess, Easter egg or cliffhanger that Resident Evil 8 sort of started for its base story was obviously the whole BSA situation. Now we could see her again and probably working alongside with Chris, Leon, and whoever's joining to probably put a stop to this BOW thing if it ever gets continued. Obviously, this is completely hypothetical, so we might get appearance like that. Outside of that, we, like I mentioned before, could just see her saved for when those popular characters pass away. It might be controversial as it's a character I'm not sure a lot of people really care about or if at all like, and that is Moira Burton. At first, I thought she was really going to be a pain and just an annoying character that's just like a sidekick to Claire in Revelations 2, but instead she actually grew and actually was able to defend herself, which was something I wasn't expecting from Resident Evil, story-wise even. And it was a nice change. Obviously, like I mentioned before, we saw that with Sherry, but that's kind of like, that was like 2 games we saw her development in. While with Moira, it was in 1 game. Granted, there was a time skip, but it's still connected to the story in a clever way that I do like about Revelations 2. Who knows, I may make a video about it, talking about Resident Evil Revelations 2 at some point. But Moira obviously was kind of just left like with Barry and Natalia. And afterwards, we don't know what she does. Like her next move, could it be, helping out others, people who's probably scarred from the BOWs and stuff like that. Who knows? I feel like it would be interesting for her, or maybe, potentially we might even see her, in another game with Barry Burton, because that's another character who we don't know what his exactly location is. All that we know is that I was looking with Natalia. Now there was also that little information that we had with Natalia that Alex, I think, successfully probably transferred over her conscious to Natalia, and so that could spin up another sequel to Revelations 2 in the way that it's just this time probably Moira Burton who's Moira as well as Barry, who's trying to put a stop to this and probably save Natalia once again. That would be an interesting story, and I would actually love to see that. Let me know in the comments if you guys would be, curious to see how that goes. I know this is a popular choice, and this is, a no-brainer to a lot of people, but Jill Valentine's. Honestly, I know she's been in a lot more games, not as much as Leon and Chris, but still has been, quite popular in the story. Well, I would say that if our last appearance wasn't just Resident Evil 5, and I'm not really counting Resident Evil 3 Remake, because that was just a remake, and so that was just kind of old information redone. And it's a shame because honestly I would love to see her in a new game, hopefully in Resident Evil 9, since Death Island kind of boosted up popularity even further into, you know, that okay, we need to do something with this character outside of just putting it into a movie. Now I hope she does revert back to a more I guess mature side. Not mature, it's hard to really say. Her character in RE5 at the end was really brilliant, and I would have loved for them to continue that. Death Island, we kind of saw a step back for her character, in the sense that it just reminded me of RE3. So hopefully, maybe in a new game that they fix that, and that she's a more mature character. That's what I was gonna just leave it at. And so maybe she'll play importance in new game, whatever the plot may be, whether it's the continuation of the BSA story or something new. We will still want to see her, and I would be all down to play as her in a new game, probably tagged with someone else outside of Chris or with Chris. I don't actually mind, it's just it would be nice to see her again. Lastly, I want to talk about Rebecca Chambers. Now, she's, out of any of the popular characters, has had such a very little, as well as small appearances. Her only game, when playable, was literally, okay, let me actually take that back. Her only time playable was in Resident Evil 0, which was actually her own game, as well as the little bonus, if you did play that, was RE5's Mercenaries, which I can't lie, she was quite overpowered in that game, in my opinion. I feel like her weapons are just a little bit too powerful. I don't know why. Her combo, just the shotgun, I think, the TMP, is quite overpowered. Anyway, that's kind of going off sidetrack. But yeah, her own 2 appearances was that, at least playable. Actual appearances, what I was meant to say, is Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 0, as well as Vendetta, as well as Death Island. Basically 2 games and 2 movie appearances. Movie appearances, I'll be honest, a lot of characters could actually make their way into the movies and they just don't. But for Rebecca's case, she hasn't been playable for an awfully long time. And I feel like she was meant to be playable in a sense. Obviously with the, I guess, cancelled, or I don't know what actually happened to Revelations 3, but it was kind of rumored that she was probably going to be a protagonist for that game, as it kind of focuses on smaller characters for that, the Revelation series. So I thought that was the idea, but now that obviously we don't know what's going on in Revelations 3, and now it's just left in the air on what happened to Rebecca. But I hope she does make an appearance, because again, either by a remake, which, yeah, it would be cool with a remake actually, but a new game would actually help, because again, she is also a medic, which will probably make it more interesting and a little bit more fresh, as her abilities will, probably lend into a gameplay that she's a medic, she can heal herself, do different types of mixing and stuff like that. That's probably hasn't been introduced to the franchise, and it would be overall kind of fresh for the series. So hopefully, Capcom hears us out and hears me out. I don't know if you guys also want to see her come back to the franchise. It would be cool. Anyway, this video has gotten a little bit too longer than I expected. I think, if I'm seeing it right, it's for 14 minutes. So without further ado, I'm going to leave it there. As always, let me know in the comments below what you would like to see, or who you would like to see in Resident Evil that should come back. Anyway, without further ado, be sure to click the like button, subscribe for more RE content, and as always, thanks for watching.